while objectivity, it has been ingrained into some minds that an objective system is a superior system. You should have, because it's more transparent. So, I as an employee, if I enter an organization, the more objective, the more quantifiable, specifiable metrics that I have, that I use to judge my performance, the happier I would be, because it's likely transparent and I know, I have a precise visual of what I need to do to achieve a good standard of performance. But at the same time, we have gradually come to the realization that the more we are trying to objectify things, the more we are trying to convert things into metrics, KPIs, it can often backfire also, in the sense that even the simplest, sometimes the metrics are not aligned to the overall organization goal, that is one issue. But sometimes the metrics themselves are just trying to measure something else. So, a sales target in a bank for a bank manager might be something related to, or let us take an example of a lending company. A target for dispersals of loans is supposed to be a metric of business growth. How much business are you bringing in? But it could very well be that in a short term hurry, you are giving out loans to slightly low standard borrowers. Everything is good on paper, but we know internally, subjectively, that these people do not deserve it. And these things will materialize 4 years, 5 years, maybe a little period down the line. By the time you are either promoted, you move out, anything can happen. And at least you are not culpable for something that happened 4 or 5 years ago. Many such challenges come into these systems, and now the issue in front of us is, what is this optimal mix? Are we becoming a little too much metric objective oriented, so that the systems have become gameable? How do we bring back subjectivity, and how do we actually retain the benefits of both? So how can we have something subjective but yet transparent? A kind of a trade off, kind of an impossible trinity, but we will have to manage it, because in future metrics or objective systems are probably going to become even much more gameable than what we are seeing today. So, we have to be prepared for the future also.
Any high performing organization, you can't leave the objectivity, you can't run a subjective organization. Having said that, you have to see both the results as well as the effort, the quotient of result and effort. You can't say that a person who is always a result oriented, the result depends on multiple factor. Maybe market was very positive during that period, maybe it might be maybe the demand for the product, there are multiple things which pushes the result. But you also need to see the human aspect, and then see that whether the efforts, whether the person is doing the right process of achieving the results. I would say that the balance of result and effort will help you to actually build a high performing organization. In fact, in our appraisal, we have the result will deliver about 60%, but we also look at the effort part of it. But it brings a lot of subjectivity, but that's where you create the human connect. The managers understand what their direct reportees are doing, and then they justify it during the time of appraisal. So, it actually helps the organization to kind of balance, create the human connect, hold people for a long term. If you really look into the financial sector, the attrition rates are very high, because there is an aggression to do the numbers. We were actually, Raja and I had a conversation just now in terms of whether it's a push or pull, okay. And when you create that a kind of a culture where your efforts also speak, and you can't be a star performer all the time. Even Dhoni makes duck, and there are the god of cricket had a duck out. So, you can't be a star performer all the time, and when you are not a star performer and you punish the person, actually he gets into a mode where he can't further deliver. And you talked about the financial performance. Rightly said, if I worked for FMCG and then moved into financial services, I used to hire people for aggression. If somebody don't have a fire in belly, I reject, without even looking at anything. But when I joined the financial service, I really understood, the importance of assertiveness more than the aggression. And if you are very aggressive and if you are lending, actually, it will take 3 to 4 years for you to actually understand whether you did the right selling or not. Yeah.
I think from my, not specific to any organization, but across my almost 3 decades of experience, the performance management system, there is always going to be an element of subjectivity, and I think that is required. Objectivity, definitely in terms of there are only certain goals that can be measured, right, and also it's mostly a team game. End of the day, a metrics need not be necessarily, cannot be attributed to one individual. There is always that confusion around. If you could assign that easily to one individual, probably yes. In certain roles you can, but not in many of the roles, right? It's a team game end of the day. But subjectivity element is important to assess some of the soft skills and other behavior, because once into the corporate world, I think you could be an excellent individual contributor or work wonders, but if you are not moving along with the rest of the organization and with the team, then you definitely are pulling down somewhere. So from that angle, the way performance management systems have been historically done and continued, we have different models, but end of the day, all of them come down to relative performance, bell curve, all of that, right? If we keep those aside, I have a view in terms of how typically performance conversations have to happen. One is the 1 to 5 or A to F, C, E kind of ratings. Unfortunately, many times a lot of the focus shift to the ratings and end outcome, right? So everyone starts with I'm a 5 out of 5, so that invariably people are ranked at 3 or 4 or somewhere, right? You can't go above 5 or way below if I start that way. But what needs to really happen, and something I encourage time and again within my teams, one, any conversation, performance conversations, I don't need the tasks that you have done ranked against a particular number. Rather, it could be a simple presentation slide. It needs to be more of a conversation where I say what went well, that is my first category, what did not go that well, and highs and lows kind of covered there, and what would I do different if I start all over again. So now this helps promote conversation, and the rating is going to be an outcome of that, right? But what it does is it helps the individual to identify what really he or she was able to contribute, and at the same time also reflect on what they could have done better if they approach it in a different way, and promotes a lot of feedback, because typically many cases people like to take the happy path. It's easier to say okay, you have done well, because end of the day organizations are also driven by a limited budget, etc. when it comes to final payout. End of the day, performance management is linked to the payout benefits, all of that, right? That problem gets deferred to a later date in my opinion, whereas a more open, honest, transparent conversation would be more around how did the last 3 months go, or how did the 6 months go, without worrying too much whether you are a 3 rated or a 4 or a 5.
So just a very short point. How well do you think the ratings, in a way the rewards, the payouts, the ratings and performance is linked? How strong is the connection?
In terms of, there is a pretty well defined, reasonably well defined mechanism every company has in terms of the rating versus rewards. Obviously, everyone operates with a set defined budget, so it's not a it's not a bottomless pit, right? It kind of, you have $100, you have $100. For that, you have to manage within that. So while there is a well defined process or mapping in terms of what ideally should get paid out, but also given the way that end of the day it's people, right? Depending on whether the leader or the manager is able to drive decisions more assertively or being a bit more democratic. I think when people try to get a bit more democratic in this context, stating 80% of my team is high performers, then only so much you can distribute in terms of rewards. Whereas if you are able to say, I am able to differentiate, if I have 5-member team, I am able to clearly differentiate top 2, the other 3 are good, but these 2 stand out. Then the rewards actually materialize better, in my opinion.